Hello everyone and welcome back to Fallout 76 and the start of another community event. That's right, it's Meat Week. This week we'll take part in limited time events all over the map to help Grahm, everyone's favorite super mutant, throw a massive barbecue. In this video, I'm going to go over how the event works, what you can do to make sure you succeed, and get your best shot at the best rewards. I'm almost halfway to my first 1,000 subscribers here on the channel, which might not sound like a lot to some people, but I'm still pretty new at this, so it means a lot to me. If you've already subscribed, I want to take a second just to say thank you. If you're not subscribed, I do hope you'll go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like the content. There's always more to come. Okay, obligatory self-promotion out of the way, let's get into the event. Meat Week happens in two parts. It's two separate events on the map. The main event is Graham's Meat Cook, which happens just southwest of Vault 76. It starts every hour on the hour. You can count on it. It'll be there. The other event is Primal Cuts, which happens roughly every 15 minutes at 3 of 6 different locations on the map. There's always a low level, middle level, and high level friendly area so everybody can participate. To get the most reward out of Meat Week, you want to make sure you do the Primal Cuts events. When you complete them, you'll earn prime meat, which you can turn in at Graham's Meat Cook in stacks of 5. For every 5 you turn in, you'll get 5 legendary script that you can spend at the Purveyor. You can turn in up to 15 at each Meat Cook, so 15 per hour. Remember, there's a Purveyor half-off sale coming up in September, so make sure you do this to stock up on script. The more challenging the area your Primal Cuts event is in, the more prime meat you're going to get. In a moment, we'll take a look at some of those Primal Cuts events so you know what you're getting yourself into, and you know how to get around some of the bugs that seem to be plaguing this year's event. But first, there's one important thing that you need to know about Grahm. During Meat Week, Grahm is always going to be hanging out at his camp, and he's going to have plenty of things to sell you. He has his usual randomly generated list of potentially rare plans, like the mirror ball, radiation emitter, and the metal picnic table. And more importantly, he has a unique item that's only available during Meat Week, Chally's feed. You want to stop by and buy this from him so you can cook some up before you come to the Meat Cook. It's a pretty easy recipe to make, requiring 2 boiled water, 2 carrots, 3 razor grain, and 3 potatoes. This is an item you'll be able to contribute at the event. The more of it you can contribute, the easier the event becomes. I'll explain more about that later. For now, just know that you should get the recipe and cook some up. If you need the ingredients, I recommend making 2 quick stops. The Billings Homestead Workshop has an entire field of razor grain for you to grab, and then the General Steakhouse. In the garden behind it, you'll find a bunch of carrots and potatoes. There's also a stream right behind the steakhouse if you need to grab some water. Be sure to equip the green thumb perk before you collect all this stuff. Okay, enough about vegetables, let's learn how to get meat for the Meat Cook. We'll take a look at a few of the Primal Cuts events, starting with one of the more difficult ones in the Cranberry Bog. At each of these events, you'll fight off 4 waves of prime beasts and some other enemies. If you can do it before the timer runs out, you get 2 treasury notes, and in this case, 5 prime meat. To get it started, you need to play the drum to attract the prime beasts. You don't need to play it long, just a second or 2 will do. Remember, if you're a low-level player, you don't have to go to this particular event. There will be others that pop on the map that you'll be able to handle. I'll cover those in a bit. Here in the bog, the first wave will be rad scorpions, usually accompanied by mole rats. Remember, during these events, stealth is basically nerfed, so be careful if you're a low health stealth build. These burrowing enemies love to come out of nowhere and chew on you. The next 2 waves will pit you against fog crawlers, bugs, and sometimes there's still even going to be a few mole rats stopping by. This is where things start to get a little buggy, no pun intended. The prime beasts have a tendency to spawn really far away from the event area. This was an issue last year too, but they seem to be even farther away this year. This means they can get caught on obstacles or engaged with other enemies. You can't just sit in the event area and wait for the enemies to come to you. If you do, you'll almost definitely fail. so go hunting for them and take them out as quickly as possible. The last wave here will throw fog crawlers and a level 100 super mutant behemoth at you, along with the potential for other enemies. At each Primal Cuts event, there's a chance that the boss enemy will be legendary. Usually just a 1-star, but hey, that's a little more script to collect, so that's all good. One last bug with these events, and it does seem to affect all of them. It's probably related to server lag with large numbers of players running similar events at the same time, but don't mess around at the Primal Cuts events. It's not uncommon to finish one with a few seconds left and still fail it. For some reason, the final kill doesn't always register in time. These aren't events where you want to stand around letting everybody get hits in on every target. Just kill everything as fast as you can. Try to leave a little bit of a buffer before time runs out, just in case. The other high-level event takes place in the Mire, and also awards 5 prime meat. That one will pit you against Radtoads, Gulpers, and a level 100 Mirelurk Queen. It's in the Mire, so be prepared to use VATS a lot, as it's often nearly pitch black when you're there. For mid-levels, you can find events in either the Savage Divide or the Ash Heap. Let's start with the Ash Heap. I find this one to be one of the more rewarding Primal Cuts events to do, despite it only giving 4 prime meat when you finish it. Here, you'll face waves of cave crickets, which is great because they drop acid, which is an important component for ammo crafting. Definitely take advantage of that when this one pops to stock up. Later waves will throw rad scorpions at you, but at a lower level than the ones in the bog. The boss for this event will be a sheep squatch. I'm not sure if it's always a level 80 or not, but all sheep squatches are legendary, so that's another plus for this one. More guaranteed script, and personally, I just kinda like fighting the sheep squatch, it's fun. In the Savage Divide, you'll face Yaoguai in the early waves and honey beasts in the later waves. This boss will be a hermit crab. Out of all the Primal Cuts events, I found this one to be the buggiest, which was the same last year. There are lots of obstacles for enemies to get stuck on. They spawn far away, and this year I'm even seeing them spawn across the pond from the event. So if you're doing this one, be prepared for a lot of sprinting and VATS targeting to spot these things. Just like the Ash Heap event, this one awards 4 prime meat. For low-level players, you'll see an event either in the Forest or the Toxic Valley. The Toxic Valley is probably the better of the two, as you'll face mongrels in the early waves and snallygasters in the later waves. Much like cave crickets, they drop acid, so very useful. Last year, the boss here was a Grafton monster. This year, I haven't even seen a boss in the Toxic Valley. I don't know if that's because of a bug or if other players have just killed it before I got a chance to see it. That's not really uncommon at the lower level events, especially if very powerful players show up. So you may see one, you may not. In the Forest, you'll face wolves and Yaoguai. They're all pretty low levels. If a lot of players are here, don't be surprised if things are dead before you get a chance to even look at them. These enemies do go down really quickly. The boss here will be a Deathclaw, at least for a few seconds until someone kills it. Both the Forest and the Toxic Valley Primal Cuts events award 3 prime meat. All Primal Cuts events also give you 2 treasury notes, regardless of what area you're in. So I think most players will be pretty well stocked up on those by the end of the week. Once you've completed a few Primal Cuts events, you'll have some prime meat in your inventory under the Aid tab. You can't cook it, but you can eat it raw. But really, you just want to hold it until the meat cook. I've seen a lot of players worry about it spoiling before the event, but in my experience, it'll keep fresh for about 2 hours. So if you're doing the meat cook regularly, you should always have more than the maximum possible to turn in. You can equip the Good with Salt perk under Luck if you want to be absolutely sure they don't spoil, but I honestly don't think it's necessary. You're only able to turn in 15 of these every hour, so stockpiling them really doesn't do anything for you. You should have plenty of opportunity to turn them in, so don't worry too much about them spoiling. Once the top of the hour hits, it's time to head to Graham's Meat Cook. You'll see a public event notification, and you can fast travel there for free, or you can head to Vault 76 and walk over ahead of time. It's very close, so easy enough. There's a cooking station there too, so if you need to cook up some Chally's feed, you'll be able to. Don't forget to equip Super Duper before you cook it up, it does work. After the meat cook starts, there's a 2-minute timer before it actually begins to give players a chance to wrap up what they're doing and get there. Once it runs out, your first stop should be the main grill. This is where you'll deposit your prime meat. You can deposit it in stacks of 5, and you'll be given 5 script for each stack, up to 15 total. This is an important reward, and even better because you get it right away, regardless of whether the event succeeds or fails. However, once the event is over, you can't deposit the prime meat, so always do that first. From there, you'll be able to complete a variety of tasks around the camp. Every task contributes positively to the progress bar, while tasks that go uncompleted contribute negatively. It's not a terribly difficult event to complete, but you do need to know what to do. So as to not drag the video out with a bunch of stats and minute details, I'm not going to cite every single spawn drop or progress rate as we go here. Instead, I'll go over everything sort of in their order of importance and just kind of mention how effective or ineffective they are at helping you complete the event. With that said, I'm basing that information on a spreadsheet of data mined information collected and assembled by a Reddit user named Gilpo. They put together a very detailed spreadsheet with all the specifics listed, including drop rates for all the rewards. I'll put a link to that in the description, and I definitely recommend checking it out if you want more specific information. The most important tasks to complete are killing critters, the squirrels, rabbits, and possums that show up, and collecting their critter chunks, as well as collecting the special greens that grow all over the camp area. Critters spawn repeatedly throughout the event, but the greens only spawn once, so grab them up. Once you've collected a bunch of those things, donate them in the appropriate containers. One is marked green, the other is marked chunk. It's so simple, even a super mutant could do it. The other really important task is to donate the Chally's feed that you've already made up before the event started. There's a bale of hay right beside Chally the Moo, so you can donate one every 30 seconds, and these move the progress bar a lot. Don't forget to drop them in. Grahm has additional dialogue if you do. As you're running around doing all these things, you'll also see things that need to be cleaned up. Rotten leftovers and random fires that spawn around the area. These will drain the event's progress bar the longer they're left unattended, so make sure to clean up the trash and put out the fires as you go. Behind Chally, you'll also sometimes see stinky piles. They work the same way. Clean those up too. The final tasks on the list are playing instruments on the stage and turning the cooking spits. These can contribute a lot, especially if all 3 instruments or spits are being turned at the same time, but they're not as useful as the other things. These are particularly helpful things you can do though, especially if you have to step away for a few minutes and can't really run around doing everything, or maybe if you're just a party pooper who's AFKing the event. The last thing to cover are rewards. The big one that everybody will want is the plan for the tenderizer. It's got a roughly 2% chance of dropping if you finish the event with 100% on the progress bar. It's the weapon Grahm is carrying around, and it's pretty good. Last year, you could only get the weapon itself. Hopefully, once you learn the plan, the legendary versions will be able to drop for you. We'll have to wait and see on that. There are also a variety of unique outfits, including some new ones for this year, some camp items, mod plans for the tenderizer, and a special backpack plan. You can also get the Tato salad recipe, which is a really useful HP buff, especially if you have the herbivore mutation. Sadly, with the event being freshly released and me recording on PC, where I wasn't playing last year, I don't really have these to show you. But if you check that spreadsheet in the link in the description, you'll get a complete list of all the rewards. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of the video. I hope this explained how the event works so you can jump in and make the most of it. As always, if you liked the video, found it useful, or anything in between, be sure to subscribe. I have new Fallout 76 content coming out every week on the channel. Till next time, I'm Fisty McRib.
Grahm love week of meat. Ho 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 ho. Meat sweet, meat treat. Grahm gonna eat the meat. Who gonna eat the meat? Grahm. Who gonna eat the meat? Humans. Who not gonna eat the meat? Chally. Oh, 'cause it meat week.